Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see some of you on here, and thanks for everybody for attending today. I hope you're all keeping well. It's been some time, I think, since I've seen a lot of you, even though this is virtually, obviously due to the pandemic. I know you've been getting a lot of emails from me recently. Yeah, please keep the communication going and shout if you need me for anything or anything I can support with in any way. I am here. Obviously still working just Mondays and Tuesdays at the moment, but I'm on top of emails continuously, so yeah, feel free to ping me one across if you need me. Just a little message from Gail in Sligo. Ireland have got a task force that's been set up, so some of Southern Ireland will have received an email with a link asking them to input for a submission into the task force. The deadline for it is the 16th of November. So if you haven't already and you have been asked to do it, please could you do it, because this is quite important as they're looking into purple flag and what it means for Ireland. So it would be much appreciated. So it's a quick introduction. It's just as I said, it's a welcome to everybody. We've got two areas speaking for us today, which is Londonderry and Darlington, which is amazing. So thank you guys for being first up on this first virtual meeting for Purple Flag. It's really, really appreciated. And then after that, we will open the floor to an open discussion. So if anyone's got any questions or queries or anything they'd like to let us know, what you've used Purple Flag for during the pandemic, and any best practice that you can share with us, it would be much appreciated. As OJ did mention, I don't know if everyone was on the call at the time, this is being recorded for those that are unable to attend this afternoon. So if you ever want to flip back and look at something because you've missed it for whatever reason, then I will share the details for that next week. So we'll start. So who would like to go first, Darlington or Derry? It's entirely up to you guys. I can see Jim's there. Jim, do you want to go first? If you can take yourself off mute. There you go.
That's fine, Sarah. Yeah, we'll fire off first. Firstly, Sarah and OJ, thanks for hosting us today. It's always great to learn from others how things are done, and we all work in different types of areas as well. The council areas that would be throughout Britain would be different from they are in Northern Ireland, and even different again in the Republic of Ireland. So there'll be a few things maybe I'll talk about or Lorraine will talk about that's slightly different from where it would be elsewhere. But firstly, I guess this all started for us on March the 15th. What actually happened here in our city is that we border with Donegal, and in the Republic of Ireland, they went into lockdown a week before we did. But for those who know, March the 17th is St. Patrick's Day, and there was a lot of fear that people would come out of Donegal into Derry to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with all the bars being closed in Donegal. So the bars in this city arbitrarily closed down prior to any diktat from government or anywhere else. So they actually closed down one full week before lockdown actually came into us in March. Now, the first bar to do it was fine. It took them long and hard to think about it and the ramifications it might have, but it had an immediate domino effect with all the other bars, and people's moral conscience was put to the test, and they didn't really want to close down because it's a major piece of business for a lot of these bars and nightclubs around St. Patrick's Day, but indeed they closed down. So they were closed for about a week before the lockdown came in Northern Ireland, and then I have to say our politicians moved very quickly after that, where they announced grant aid very quickly of £10,000 per premise or £25,000 per premise, depending on the size of each premise, and that would have seen a lot of our businesses through the end of March. But very quickly after that, the furlough scheme came in, which then gave a great bit of comfort right throughout the period. Now, Purple Flag was absolutely superb for us, and it placed City Centre Initiative, the company that Lorraine and myself are from, in a perfect position, because we were the link between council between police, between the other statutory authorities, and a lot of the businesses that operate within the purple flag area. And because we're a city centre management company, we also were the link with the retail. So we were almost like the vehicle to get the messages out. MailChimp came into its own in this period, and answering queries, and all the guys were working from home at that time. So the phones were red hot and hopping, and basically answering the queries. So there was a period then, possibly you could call hibernation or stability, which wasn't so bad. But then the sort of different tiered opening then happened. And for any of the guys on the call that manage or operate city centres, as we all know, a city centre is only as good as the sum of all its components. You know, if only part of the city centre is open and operating, then it's not going to really work properly. To make it work properly, we need footfall back, and we need everybody back in there. So at this stage, CCI, through its purple flag, we were taking all the information from the people who were complaining, the people who were complaining about lack of enforcement, wondering when they were going to open, why restaurants were open first, why cafes were open first, you know, why we were doing the eat out, the help out, but yet the wet bars, as they became known, weren't allowed to open. So there was a lot of questions and a lot of difficulties. For us here, we don't sell alcohol in this area through our local shops. They have to be sold from licensed off licenses, but they were still allowed to operate normally. So, you know, you had the people who owned the bars, people who had people employed, people who owned the nightclubs, all the security that goes with that, all the taxis that service all that industry, and all the ancillary bits, all questioned, why could people drink at home? Why could they do this? Why was the eat out, the help out scheme allowed to open, but all the bars not allowed to open? Why were hotels on reduced business, et cetera, et cetera? So there was real confusion and anger and pain. And there was one set of rules in Northern Ireland, another set of rules in the Republic of Ireland, and another set of rules in London. And people were hearing the news and watching the news and listening to all these stories. And people were extremely confused. It was confusion anyway, even though there's only one set of rules. But when you were getting 3 different sets of rules, it only added to confusion and added to the anger. Now, just to highlight a point, I don't like calling it, but I'm going to say this, our wet bars opened on the 23rd of September, and that was then closed from the 15th of March. They were then closed again on the 1st of October, because in our city and district, the growth rate of COVID-19 went through the roof. We were up at one stage to approximately 1,000 persons testing positive within every 100,000. We went from one of the lowest areas to one of the highest areas, and nobody can explain why. There was nothing that anybody could put their finger on as to what was happening. So the Rain and myself were fielding calls all day, every day, 7 days a week, trying to get information, trying to get help. In the middle of all this, you had the bars and the nightclubs who had, and even the restaurants, an NEV of over 51,000. They were getting no income whatsoever, other than the job retention scheme, which was fine for keeping people in work, but that was starting to reduce. And then the date of 31st of October was coming on us very, very quickly. So we opened again, as I say, on the 1st of October fully, or on the 23rd of September fully, but we closed again on the 1st of October. There was 1 month left of the job retention scheme. And fortunately or unfortunately, firstly, there was no announcement made on the job retention scheme until the 31st of October, when Boris that Saturday evening talked about the closure coming in England. But it was only then that the job retention scheme opened up again to people who worked in Northern Ireland. Now, that eased a lot of pain for us. People could go on the new furlough scheme, but the worry that whole month about whether people were still going to be employed or not was palpable. And it wasn't just about the businesses, it was about those who were employed within the industry itself. We were extremely lucky that we were able to impart all the information that was required. In between all of this, we worked with council, trying to put together a recovery package, reimagining our streets. There was grant aid allocated to businesses to put awnings and coverings outside that they could utilise. And thankfully, we haven't spent that yet. That's still sitting there. And a lot of the businesses are looking for a sort of a spring renewal, getting everything ready for spring, because this second one came on us in a very difficult way. Our numbers grew exponentially. The rates of COVID-19 in our hospitals are much higher this time than they were in the first wave. For instance, we had 11 deaths here in Northern Ireland today, and it's just been quite critical. In the first phase, we would have heard of people who had COVID-19. In this phase, we all knew people who had COVID-19, and there was a remarkable difference. But we were very lucky that we had the network of Purple Flag set up. It was very easy for us to disseminate information right across the piece to all the different sectors who operate in the Purple Flag area. We worked very closely with the police. There was a few policing issues around the time, totally different policing issues. We had a Black Lives Matter rally, which caused some difficulties. And then, believe it or not, we did no masks rallies that were causing difficulties as well. But again, the linkages with the police and all the other agencies was a massive help. It's been a real roller coaster ride. I don't think any of us believe we're past it yet. This time around, since the 1st of November, when the job retention scheme or the furlough scheme was extended, it's calmed people's nerves down again. There's still some money the bar owners have to pay out. This time, the executive has allowed to allocate money to premises over 51 NEV, 51k NEV. So at least some of the premises now are getting help where they didn't. But the big learning from us and what we want to build on is that partnership. And Sarah and OJ, we've talked about partnership before. It placed Lorraine and myself in a very unique position whereby we had all the partners there on tap. We had a direct link through to the Department for the Economy, a direct link through to the Department for Finance. So any questions that we needed answered, we got them back fairly quickly. But the other thing about it was as well, and this was encouraged, our executive ministers asked that we feed back any difficulties that were had. Now, we do struggle a bit with information coming out from the executive. Today we're waiting to hear about a reopening, and there's no joined up thinking on this. I know in the Republic of Ireland, the bars and restaurants aren't due to open for another couple of weeks, I believe, whereas our Northern Ireland executive has set a date of the 13th of November, which is the end of this week. So there's a debate on as to what they're going to do, but our numbers are still quite high. The average now for the whole of Northern Ireland is 192 points something per 100,000 that are testing positive, so it's still fairly high. But the peculiarity for us is the border. And as long as the businesses in the Republic of Ireland are closed down, if we open up early, we'll attract people here as well. That brings opportunities, but it brings risks. The opportunities for business would be there, but the risks wouldn't. I had some restaurateurs on to me today, basically saying, look, we should just leave it. Let us sit for another couple of weeks. Let us get open for Christmas. They got the word of the possible vaccine being ready. Let us try and see if we can get this vaccine in early in the new year, and maybe that can help control any further outbreak after Christmas. So it's been a real learning curve for all of us, Sarah, but I do say that without the network of Purple Flag, it would have been 10 times harder. That partnership has really shown through in this experience. And I'm mindful of how long I've spoken. I want to maybe hand over to Lorraine if Lorraine wants to say anything.
Yeah, just reiterating what you said yourself, Jim. It's been a hell of a time for everybody. We keep a database of all of our traders that we use for notifications for numerous different things that happen in the city centre. So really the communication and the partnership that we've used throughout this time has been critical to get everybody to where we are today. I think one of the biggest things myself that I've found with working with maybe some of the publicans, the restaurateurs, is to find as much positive output as they possibly can when all of this finally is over, and to operate in a safe way, and maybe working in ways that they've never thought of before. So my job really has been kind of getting people to try and think outside of the box and see what opportunities actually lie in all the devastation that we've seen that it's caused to the economy. I think everyone initially looked to us for support and signposting as to, we don't know what's happening, so where do we go now? Where I think now has really got to the point where people are getting to proper crisis point, and they're looking to us to try and rally and lobby as much as we can to get as much support as possible, and to keep communications open with everybody. I mean, we're very, very lucky to have the support network that we do in Derry. Like Jim said, between the police, the council, ourselves, through the executive, etc., we really have formed a very, very solid partnership, as we had before, but even more solid now. So we're just trying to keep as positive as we possibly can for all the traders, helping as much as we possibly can, and supporting them and signposting as much as we possibly can. Again, it's probably taught me a thing or two as well, in so much as the way that we can work. Myself as the Purple Flag coordinator, I've set up social media platforms that I wouldn't have set up before, to basically get as much information out to people as we possibly can. I think, looking at it from my point of view, I've just been trying to keep as positive and as informative platform as I possibly can to the people that we deal with every day. I just working side by side with everybody. It's the support network, like I say, is pretty immense, so we can only build on that, and I hope it keeps going in the future as well. As dire as it seems, it's also a good time for opportunity to work in ways we'd never imagined before. So just to keep that partnership and that positivity going forward, I think, is the key.
Thanks, Jim and Lorraine. That's so helpful and really interesting to see, because obviously, as Jim pointed out, we're all at very different stages. So what's coming out is not the same everywhere. So it's really helpful to understand, obviously, where you guys are at and the difficulties you've faced. And such a positive, you know, when we sell Purple Flag and we go out there and talk about it, partnership working is the top one that we use. And without partnership, Purple Flag will not work in an area. And John's on the call here, he'll back me up as one of the panel members. It's just something we've seen, and areas have lost Purple Flag due to partnerships not being there. So it's really positive to hear that, you know, having that network set up, how that's enabled you there in Londonderry to help all your venues and in the hospitality, as well as probably in the daytime economy as well. So thank you both very, very much for that. That was really interesting, and I've personally made some notes here that for reference when people come and ask me questions. So really, really helpful. So next is Graham on the call from Darlington.
Yes, Sarah, can you hear us loud and clear?
Oh, I can see you now, because my screen moves, so I get half in one bit and half in another. So you've come back now, so that's great. Thanks, Graham. So can I pass it to you now, please? Graham's from Darlington, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be invited to the Purple Flag meeting to talk about the COVID experience in Darlington. There is a couple of faces I recognise, and I'll say a big thank you to those who support us throughout the Purple Flag process. I'm joined here today as well by Alex Nicholson. My role today is Head of Community Safety, and Alex is on the Town Centre team. And today we're going to do a little bit of a double act where I'll give an overview and Alex will talk about the Purple Festival, which is the way in which we celebrated our success. For those who don't know, Darlington embarked on the journey in February 2019 It was a very, very challenging journey, I've got to say, but we did get lots of good advice, support and guidance. We carried out various visits to different sites, and as a result of that, it did in fact make a very challenging process certainly a lot easier. So I do say a big thank you to all the Purple Flag partners who assisted us throughout that year. We went through that learning curve from February to October, went through the accreditation process, again grueling, and absolutely delighted to have received the accreditation in January. So having gone through that challenge, we then entered into another challenge straight away before we even had the opportunity to celebrate our success. And that's where Alex will come in at a later stage and talk about that. In relation to the lockdown in March 2020, the service that I was in, obviously we were immediately pulled to the centre, as it were, in terms of the Borough Council and given 48 hours to set up a community safety hub. And that was to support the shielded, vulnerable and isolated people within the town. But what was noticeable during that very early stage was that the town centre events team, of which Alex is part, continued to have that dialogue right the way from those early days in March. So there was an information exchange with Purple Flag members by newsletters, telephone calls, and also visits where it could be undertaken safely. And that was in relation to financial guidance and general advice about the position people found themselves in. Clearly, we had to think very, very differently early on because there was an awful lot of events planned for the year. They were cancelled and we had to reimagine how they could take place. And one of the first learning points was very much how adaptable local businesses are in that particular situation. They did embark on various online platforms, and there was lots of live streaming of events over the coming months, workshops, music, quizzes, lots of entertainment, and even as extended as writing, arts and photography classes and workshops. So again, it was the members of the group using that innovation, creativity, pulling partners together and delivering in a different way. We also had the provision of takeaways, which members benefited from. And what we tried to do throughout the whole process, be it the town centre team or any of the partners, was to support, guide and reassure. Very, very challenging time going to the lockdown at the beginning, and clearly we all had to adapt and support each other as best we could. So what happened when we started to come out the lockdown? Again, a challenging period, and that was where the services had to adapt in different ways as well. And one of the ways that we did in fact get closer together was working as a tasking and coordination group with members of the police service, licensing, and we focused very much on the evening and nighttime economy, going into the evening and then into the night, about how we could actually work with the communities, restoring, if you like, the way business could continue, but also keeping it safe. We did have meetings, and we still have them to this day. We had one at 2 o'clock today, where we engaged police officers and other colleagues in relation to how we should task our patrols at the weekend. And as a result of that early engagement on the street with various businesses, we are seeing some very high rates of engagement and indeed compliance. And if we compare ourselves with a neighbour in County Durham, they're having some considerable challenge. And when I've asked people why we think we've been so fortunate, what they've said is it's about that engagement and compliance at a very early stage. In addition to that, to make the town safer, we've had various operations, joint operations with various partners. Again, more on the engagement, the advice. Very few formal proceedings have been taken against anybody in relation to non-compliance. And again, making it safer through social distancing, pedestrian flows, obviously increasing the cleaning regime, sanitisation, and also one of the important things is making sure that our staff remain safe and partners throughout the whole process. In terms of attracting people to Darlington, clearly we had the free parking offer, which I'm sure an awful lot of other areas have gone forward with. We worked with the transport providers to make sure we could provide vital services. And we did in fact work very, very closely with the taxi trade, making sure that we give them the advice, guidance and support, because at the same time, we have in fact been working on the taxi policy, which is due for renewal on the 1st of January next year. And there has been real close dialogue with the taxis, and that's certainly assisted us in moving forward. In addition to what worked well, and in terms of the adaptation of the Purple Flag partners, we have benefited from the opening of the pavement cafes. We did in fact relax the legislation, as you know. We also relaxed the fees, closed roads, assisted with the purchase of furniture, and we now went from 6 pavement cafes in Darlington to 17, and that's had a really good result. As an ex-police officer, I thought that there may be some difficulties and challenges, but I indeed am now one of the big supporters of it moving forward in terms of future years. We also had special promotions, the Love Darlow Restaurant Weeks, the Eat Out Help Out scheme, which members obviously benefited from and continued after the close-by date. And in terms of the place, we also wanted to try and keep the place, if you like, attractive to all backgrounds and all ages. And we did, in fact, work with Keep Britain Tidy in relation to the Love Parks initiative. Basically, all that is, it's about increasing the awareness of our lovely green spaces, encouraging people to look after our great places and also keep them tidy, and that's had pleasing results. We've also continued to try and keep the appearance of the town similar to what we would like it on a nice day. We have a gorgeous water feature which we've continued to operate. We've gone ahead with planters, hanging baskets, bunting, and indeed the programme in relation to the opening of new buildings, we have driven that as well in the provision of a new arts centre, which has gone down very, very well. In terms of the partnerships, and we keep using that word, I think we gifted here. I've been 40 years in partnerships, and at Darlington we have some very strong ones, as I'm sure others have. They've continued to operate right the way throughout the lockdown and the easing of lockdown. We've maintained our various groups in relation to the town centre. We've also even continued such groups as the Begging and Homelessness group, and we've had very few presentations of people on the street, indeed very single numbers, and again those members are also on the Purple Flag working group, so that's worked extremely well. And we've found that from a leadership point of view, our partnership through Purple Flag has become stronger, connected and focused. In terms of what we've actually learned, and it has been a very challenging period for us all, we did believe that the businesses have adapted quickly, and we can't underestimate the resilience. I'm sure everybody would say they face considerable challenge. I wouldn't underestimate that, but they are extremely resilient. And the collective strength of the partnership is indeed something to be cherished. That much so that when I talked about the compliance and cooperation with few breaches of the COVID rules, I would certainly put that down to the good, effective networks and working together. Having said that, Alex will probably come on to it, but we did do a survey in relation to Purple Flag. And what we did learn was we need to improve in relation to giving everyone a better awareness that Purple Flag is here. We carried out a survey which was well responded to from about 150 businesses in the town centre and various opinion formers. And we only had a 32% awareness of Purple Flag. So that's good in one sense, because clearly we've got a little bit of work to do in terms of making the awareness better. In terms of moving forward, clearly we've got an evening and nighttime strategy which everybody will have and action plans. We're looking to do things differently, and Alex and the team are looking at things such as Christmas. How can we deliver that differently? I just chaired the COVID prevention and compliance group, and we were just talking about how we can get Santa's sleigh to go around the town centre safely at Christmas. So everybody's working towards providing things in a different way to make sure it's a safe environment. As we go forward, we'll look on what's worked. We mentioned the pavement cafes. That was a really good example. And we've been very, very fortunate moving forward to be awarded £22 million in relation to the Town Centre Fund, where clearly we'll be looking at our accommodation, our public space, the Victorian market, the wines and lighting. And we are very, very excited. And Purple Flag is centre with everybody in relation to those developments moving forward. And indeed, as we approach the 200th anniversary of the railways, 2025, it's a very exciting time in Darlington. And it's just a shame that we couldn't celebrate it really in terms of the way that we wanted to. But having said that, I'm now going to hand over to Alex just to let you know what we did deliver, which was the Purple Festival in October. And that was our, if you like, COVID way of celebrating at a time of challenge. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? I'm just going to share my screen because I've gone visual. I'm going to give you some pictures of what we've been doing. So obviously normally Purple Festival would be a big singing and dancing, lots of entertainment and activities, which we've had to adapt quite a lot this time to allow the COVID measures to be in place. But we've found that not just the hospitality sector, but all the other retailers have come on board and they've got involved. So I'll share my screen and show you what we've been up to. Share. Right. So our Purple Flag Festival, we have allocated the October half term as our week that we're going to celebrate the Purple Flag Award, and we thought that would be a really good annual period of time to make sure that every year we do the same sort of celebration for the award. We managed to get the council and our local Love Darlow partnership. We've turned the whole town purple for the week. So this was not only to tell people about it, but to raise awareness of the award. Obviously our percentage of people knowing about it was quite low, but we're brand new to it in reality. So we're building and developing those communication skills over time. So one of the first tasks I gave the businesses in the town was to light up their buildings purple. As you can see, we've got a really good selection of purple buildings. A lot of those people were on the verge of shutting down for lockdown, but they've all got on board, and we've got lots of beautiful buildings that everyone can have a look at. And then we obviously turned the social media purple, but we had lots of bunting put up throughout the town. We've got our flag flying above the town hall, so lots of people could see lots of purple things happening all week. And to make sure the businesses were engaged with our award, the social media involved not just the purple flag elements, but also lots of the retailers showed their purple produce for you to buy through that week. So even the florist bought in purple flowers for the purple week especially. To help people understand a little bit more about what the purple flag entails, we programmed and delivered social media posts, which gave a bit more of an outline about what the different themes are, which you all will be aware of. So we gave people a bit of an overview in the thinking that over time we'll keep feeding this information, so more and more people will become aware of the award and its importance across the town going forward. As a town centre events team, we're still trying to animate the town, and even on this really wet and windy day, we still had purple themed street entertainment throughout the town, just to raise awareness of the purple flag and give people a bit of a better atmosphere when they're visiting Darlington. And we've continued pre-lockdown on a weekly basis. We've had street entertainment throughout Darlington just to give a bit more animation to the streets. And so moving forward, at the moment, we are back locked down. We found that the businesses this time for the second lockdown have adapted so much more quickly. So we're highlighting which town centre businesses are doing takeaway options. We've got electronic billboards telling people about the delivery options that our town centre businesses can offer them. And all of this proactive methods, I think the businesses have really engaged with us on this, and they're really pleased with the response that the council and Love Darlow and all of the Purple Flag team, they feel like they're getting a lot of support. So it's going down very well with our businesses. And then moving forward, we're not cancelling Christmas here in Darlington. We're still going to enjoy Darlington, and to make it a socially distanced friendly town and give some festivities. We're still putting on the Christmas lights. We've still got our Christmas tree being installed next week. And we've actually commissioned a local artist who is at the moment installing these really beautiful silhouettes that are going in shops upstairs around the town centre. So they light up and everyone can see these lovely festive images. And I think that covers everything. Any question?
That was brilliant. Thank you so much. And just seeing what you've been doing in Darlington, actually, it's just nice to hear, because obviously you guys, as Graham said, you got your first purple flag in January 2020, and then things sort of went downhill for everybody from that point onwards with the pandemic. And as Graham rightly said, everything got cancelled. So the awards night we were planning, everything got cancelled. But it's so nice to hear what people have been doing through the pandemic, and that they managed to still do some sort of involvement with what we would have had as Purple Flag Month. We still obviously went ahead with it. We didn't focus too much on areas this time round, obviously because some couldn't do anything at all due to furlough and other reasons. So we were pulling at different things throughout, for us nationally, throughout the Purple Flag Month. But I'm actually quite proud that you guys did all that for Purple Flag Month, and really, really appreciate that, because that's really, really positive in something that is so serious that's been going on. So I'm grateful, and I will share some of the ideas that you had, which were great. And I'm loving the Christmas silhouettes in the windows. Not seen that before. You know, we used to have the old snow spray, wasn't it? And people would go around and do that sort of thing. But to get as well retail involved and on Purple Flag Month, like as you say, F. Hines showing purple jewellery, I think that's it's really, really important that that sort of thing is shared. So please, when you do your renewal, I don't want to bring it up, but when you do, put all that in, because it's really important, and it's important for us and the panel, and so that we can share that out with everybody. So I really appreciate that. I think one of the questions for me, with the help out to eat out, how did that go for people? Obviously we saw, well, I went into my local town at the time, and the queues for Nando's was amazing. I think the general population of 11 to 17-year-olds held Nando's up at that point. But has anyone had any issues from that? Has it generated any problems for you guys? Yes, Alex.
We actually found that the Eat Out Help Out worked really well in Darlington. I think a lot of restaurants actually Eat Out Help Out actually were back to normal trading amounts of money, but Eat Out Help Out boosted those figures for the Monday to Wednesday, and we strategically programmed our pavement cafes on the road closures for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so we weren't clashing with the two types of businesses. So the restaurants benefited at the beginning of the week, and then the pavement cafes that were more bars at the end of the week. But then we had a restaurant week programmed in for the first week in October, which was 3 courses for £15. So we had a second sort of event to help promote people going out to the restaurants and bars. So our businesses are really taking positive steps, I think, and they're adapting to the situation. And we've got some really radical ideas coming out from lots of the businesses. And this time lockdown, they haven't all just shut, they've all adapted. So we've got lots more different methods of deliveries and collections from most of the businesses in the town centre.
Ed's just commented from Weymouth, actually, in the chat. I don't know if you guys can see that, but he asked what sort of budget did that entail for the Purple Flag Month?
Budget? We don't have budgets. Most of the social media coverage was myself, and that went through the different channels. We spent about £1,500 on street entertainment. We've got bunting bought in, which was delivered to every single bar, so they've got that all on display. I just haven't got any pictures. So we work on, I'm used to working with no budget, so we worked on a low budget, but everybody's on board with it, so it's a bit of a team effort. So lighting was done by the businesses themselves. So yes, everybody chips in, really. That's
really helpful. I'm going to open the floor up. Is there anybody else? Jim, go for it, Jim.
So one of the real difficult things for us was the Eat Out to Help Out scheme was superb. It worked really, really well. But at that stage, you had other parts of the purple flag industry shut down. It caused real difficulties for the licensed premises, the ordinary wet bars, as I say, they've become commonly known as, but they couldn't open up unless they were trading outside. And whilst we did have the pavement cafe license introduced as well, it still was difficult because they were limiting the numbers that they could have outside. And for some of the larger premises, you know, they might have to employ maybe 15 people. They service 15 people outside because they didn't do food inside. I don't know what it was like in the rest of the regions, but certainly here, you couldn't serve alcohol inside unless you served food. And even then, you know, there was a whole social distancing issue, and so those bars that didn't do food could only serve outside, and that's where the grant aid was coming in to help them reimagine outside their premises. They put awnings or coverings and furniture. So we decided what we would do is not rush at that. We would do it more looking to the future instead of just spending money now, putting in stuff that would be short term. But we had bars open on the 23rd of September, but then they were closed again on the 1st of October. They were open just for a week, and then they had to close again. So it was really difficult for them guys to sit back and girls to sit back and look at restaurants prospering and doing really, really well and having big crowds in, but realizing that they just wanted to open up and serve alcohol and do their business as well, but they weren't able to do it. That caused real stresses and strains. And it took a bit of work to keep everybody on the same page around that. And then, of course, being in the evening time industry, you're always going to get those who abuse it. So then it came to the enforcement side of it. And initially, the police were very standoffish, and they didn't really want to go in heavy-handedly and enforce. And a decision was taken, just before the 23rd of September that they were going to do that. So in more recent times, that's what they've done. But again, unfortunately, we've been closed down again since the 1st of October. So the evening time economy is just absolutely non-existent here at this moment in time. And people are frightened about opening up too quickly because they fear another lockdown before Christmas, and that could decimate some of these businesses. So some real challenges, but again, it's about free flow of information, standing as a team together and helping each other through it. But that's not without its difficulties.
That's really helpful, Jim. Thank you. Gail, is there, could you give us a quick overview for your side in Ireland, please?
Hi, everybody. Just listening to a really good presentation, and it's really interesting to see what's similar and what's different. Our lockdown was 3 days before. I think we were the third parade in the Republic of Ireland to cancel our St. Patrick's Day parade. Way back in March. On another discussion the other day is we are sensing a very different attitude from the business community this lockdown versus the previous lockdown. And even for our resident population, I think that the weather played a big role in the first lockdown versus the second lockdown. There's a raft of confusion, and I'm actually just getting video this morning because we have 349 border crossings, and Jim will be intimately aware of all of this. At any point, you could be tipping into Northern Ireland and wouldn't even know you crossed the border. So our retail was shut here, bar essential services. It's open in Northern Ireland. There was a raft of confusion. I think there's going to be a push-pull traffic both sides of the border in the run-up to Christmas. But interesting stats that did come out of, we have a low R number on our side of the country, given that we're such a small country. But during July and August, our occupancy in our hotels was at 80 to 90%, and caravan parks were at 95%, where the rest of the country, such as big cities like Dublin, was at 11%, Cork City was at 30%. So we did really well and didn't have a spike 2 weeks later when everybody went home. So our staycation model worked very well for our county. That said, Christmas is a different challenge at a different time. And I just think that there's a weariness that wasn't here before. I feel desperately sorry and I just looked at one of our chief medical officer has said that he's not encouraging Christmas drinks. Our wet pubs will probably open for the Christmas period, depending on what the R number is. After Christmas, it may shut very quickly. But if you think of your retail sector who had ordered in their summer stock in March and didn't get a chance to sell at full price, the stock they ordered now in September, they'll move straight. So certainly here they're moving to discounting and sales straight away. One, to offset Black Friday internationally, and two, is to shift that stock in the 2 weeks running to Christmas. So it is a worrying time, and I think it is January, February, because a lot of our businesses in our towns and cities in the Republic of Ireland, that 6 week lead-in time is the income for January, February of next year. And so I think it's a hold your breath and dive straight in moment.
Thanks, Gail. I know it's is a very different atmosphere as to what everybody's saying. Quite a lot of feedback from people I've been speaking to over the last couple of days. They're quite adamant that Boris is going to extend this lockdown. I don't know if they know something I don't know. I've not heard anything. I don't think OJ has, but people seem to think that the lockdown here will extend after the 2nd of December, which obviously would have a massive issue for retail and the hospitality industry yet again if that does happen. There was a glimmer of hope yesterday, as everyone mentioned, with the medication. I can't think of the word now, it's gone. Thank you. But again, we don't know when that's going to be available. And I quickly caught up all the bit of news at lunchtime, and they were saying that the vaccine's probably we're a year away from it being rolled out here in the UK. They think that, you know, the elderly, the doctors, the nurses, and the people in care work will become first. They'll be vaccinated by the end of the year, and then it will roll out further. So I think we're still some time away before things dramatically change. But as everyone said, who knows? We're all on a big learning curve here. But has anyone else got anything they'd like to throw in and add to today's conversations? I can't see everyone. Lisa.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Jim said about Eat Out to Help Out. It was very successful, and the benefit was that and someone else mentioned this in the chat, we improved our engagement from a Purple Flag perspective with restaurants. So, you know, we've, Sarah, as you know, we've run a Purple Flag conference for a 2-3 years, and we had really great engagement from pubs and nightclubs, that the kind of late night economy or later night economy, but needed to do a lot of work on engaging our restaurants in that. And so that's really been helpful. But I think those who didn't receive the grants, if you had a rateable value of over 51K, and if you were a wet bar, if you couldn't quickly pivot and take advantage of some of the other areas like table licensing outside, then those are the ones I'm really worried about. I'm really worried about our venues who, again, with the planning system and class use changes is a whole nother aspect to all of that. So yeah, I think we just have to keep doing what we can do, keep pushing out the new grant system when people can claim that now. Thankfully, there are grants for the over 51K, but it's the engagement with that group. They're very worried.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Is there anybody else? I can't see everyone, so you might need to shout at me.
I've got a few things to say. Kenny said earlier on.
Yeah.
Just about a couple of things, yeah. No, he's meant asking.
Yeah, that's great, Wes, thanks.
No, just thanks. Yeah, Sarah. No, just a couple of people might have heard on the call when we first started, but just to give a quick update about some of the things that's been happening in Liverpool since the weekend with the testing, some figures, just a bit of a quick snapshot really. But yeah, since Friday, 23,000 people have been tested as of yesterday, and 148 or 150, depending on your figures, people have been identified as asymptomatic, positive with no symptoms. So that's less than 0.7%. And I was saying to OJ earlier on, I don't know why in my mind, but I thought that was going to be higher, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm really pleased that it does seem really low. Yeah, the Liverpool City region, Wirral, Knowsley, Sefton, St Helens and Warrington, they're about to be included in the pilot. Did anyone see Panorama last night? Yeah, Kenny mentioned it earlier, and also one of our key stakeholders who runs the Leaf Group in Liverpool City Centre, who we've worked with a very long time, she and Prince William, people might have seen that, a conversation with some people from Liverpool. Well, what it is that Natalie from Leaf, Natalie Haywood, very successful young entrepreneur from Liverpool, she had an audience with Prince William, and Purple Flag was mentioned on that. She brought it up. She's very supportive of Purple Flag, is Natalie. And Prince William knew what that was straight away, apparently. I haven't seen the interview personally. Have you seen that, Sarah?
No, I've not seen that either.
Yeah, so it was on the national news apparently, but yeah, so there was a discussion about purple flag and Prince William, according to Natalie. Yeah, some of the discussion around purple flag was broadcast, but there was a discussion, a further discussion around it, and he knew exactly what it was. So that's really positive. That I think that's great news for us, for purple flag. In terms of just the city and how it's going and what have you, like a lot of places, Liverpool is really quiet at the moment. Fear for a lot of people. There's a lot of stakeholders who you have relationships with. A lot of people that have known a very long time, who are feeling very much under pressure and feel really sorry for them. And where we're up to is we're going to take the opportunity really to wipe the slate clean with the city centre and get down to our bread and butter work, Kenny and I, in street scene and enforcement work, making sure that when everything reopens and getting ready, hopefully for December the 2nd, that everywhere is nice and bright and clean and presentable, and we're supporting people and making sure that people want to come into the city centre and it's a nice, inviting place. And all that obviously features not just in the daytime, but in the night. In terms of the night, we're just applying all the nighttime economy principles around purple flag and using purple flag as the gauge, really. Yeah, so that's where we're up to. But yeah,
that's great. Thanks for that, Wes. And if you can source that,
to take that out.
That with Prince William, if we can find that would be really, really helpful for me, and I can share that with everybody then.
Yeah, no, I'll speak to her. I tried to speak with her today. I've gone to get more info about it because, as I say, Kenny saw it, but I didn't see it. I've seen a picture of it, but I haven't, because it was like a Zoom call she had with them. And there was a couple of other people. People may or may not have heard of it, but there's a really famous nightclub event called Circus, which is based in Liverpool, which is it's not associated with Cream, but it is in a way, in an indirect way. And the organizer and the promoter, Yusuf Zaha, he was on it as well. So it was Liverpool stakeholders, but yeah, it was from what I've heard about it, it was a really interesting conversation. But as I say, it was great that we got purple flag in there.
No, that would be really helpful, Wes, if you can. And obviously Boris gave us a mention as well earlier on. I've still got a mask to send him, a purple flag mask, which I haven't got round to, but I will do that. But yeah, so I think purple flag is still being talked about, which is really positive. And people are using it and have used it during the pandemic. So if anyone, I'm just looking at the time, so we're fast approaching the 4:30 mark, but we are going to do these on a regular basis. So we are going to do these 2 weekly, but the next one we're going to be doing is around counter-terrorism, with the recent events that have happened in France, that we need to just remind everybody about that side of everything. So the next one will be the 1st of December, and Ian Rudge, who is counter-terrorism at the Met Police, will be doing a presentation and having a chat just in time for reopening on the 2nd. But I'll circulate some details about that one as well to everybody, and we'll do the same process of where you can book in. OJ, is there anything you want to add? Because I know you've been picking up the messages whilst everyone's been chatting.
Yeah, just to say, wow, Prince William knows purple flag. Woohoo! Excellent stuff.
I thought that was really cool, OJ. Yeah,
yeah, that is really cool. That is really
cool, isn't it? There you go.
The royal accreditation of purple flag. I can see it now. There's a rebranding in store. No, that's everybody. That's been a really useful meeting. I think I've learned a lot today. I think just the importance of things like partnership and communication, I think for me have been really useful. Londonderry and Darlington, I will be back in touch because I think there's bits from both of your presentations which I think are really useful, which I just want your permission to use elsewhere, just to promote best practice in terms of even in the nighttime economy. Yeah, I think it's been a great first meeting, and we will do these regularly. So every 2 or 3 weeks or so, we'll have a catch up with our purple flag group. So yeah, just to say thank you very much, everyone, for participating.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and just drop me an email if you need anything.
Thank you, Sarah.
Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.